I just finished a family yoga class here in my studio and I wanted to do a walkthrough so that you could see how I set things up, what I did in the class, what I changed, how the dynamics were, and how I managed the class, and how I would change the class moving forward. So this was originally supposed to be a class in the park. Last weekend we had beautiful weather and it was perfect for yoga in the park. But today it is very, very rainy and dull. So I decided to bring the class inside. Now, luckily, I only had 5 parents and 5 children signed up for the class because space in Hong Kong is very limited. And whilst I love my wildflower studio, just like every other yoga studio in Hong Kong, it is small. So it was perfect for 5 or 6 parents. So we brought it inside, and because it's rainy, people were a little bit late, which is completely fine for me. But I firstly asked the parents that had arrived on time if it was okay if we just waited 5 minutes until all the children arrived. And that is because I don't want it to be unsettling or disruptive for any of the children or parents. If I start my class on time, which I do like to do because I respect the parents' time, but then if there are 2 or 3 parents and children coming in late, it can feel uneasy for the children that are late. They're joining in a class that's already started, and it's unsettling for the children that have already started the class and are feeling settled in the space. So I asked the parents if they were okay to wait for a few minutes, and they were, which is great. Then I'd already set up my class, of course, and I knew that some parents would be here early, as often they are. So I put some things out in the center of my circle so that those children who were early, and then obviously those that were waiting for the children who were a little bit late, would have something to focus on that was still mindful and yoga based so that they're not starting to get dysregulated. In fact, for those 10 minutes that they are waiting because they've arrived early, they are starting to get more settled, more regulated, and relaxed. Now, the aim of this class, because it was parent and child, was co-regulation and connection. That was not my theme, that was my objective. So as we were waiting for the children to arrive, those that were here, I just introduced some activities that they could do very casually, alone or with a friend or with their parent. And so I've got them here, as you can see behind me. This is my setup. So I always have my mats in a circle, always. It doesn't matter what age, whether they are 3 years old or teenagers, or if it's family yoga, I always have my mats in a circle, because it feels more community based. And for me, that is very important with yoga. So if I'm doing a teacher training or a workshop, I also set my mats out in a circle. It's only when I'm doing adult classes like vinyasa or gentle flow where I have a typical studio layout with the mats next to each other. For everything else, we are in a circle because we are a community. It also helps the children stay focused on me as the teacher guiding them, and also whatever activities we're doing together. So I set my mats out in a circle. I put all the nice cushions down so it was comfy for everybody. And as you can see here, in the center, I had some activities that they could focus on. Now, some of these I was going to use during the class. Some of these I had planned to use, but we didn't get round to it. But these were also perfect activities for that first 10 minutes when the children were just getting settled and we were waiting to start. So I bring in singing bowls, I have my chime, and then I have my tiny little drum. So very tiny little instruments that are calming and actually set a really beautiful tone when they are playing with them and exploring them independently or with their parents. I also had some scarves, which are just like nice for sensory that they can play with, some natural objects which I encourage them to observe and look at, to just notice and have a mindful moment together with their parent. And then I had the emotions cards. And I just put out for this age group, which I should have mentioned, it was early years. So the class was for 3 to 5-year-olds. And so with the emotions cards, I just selected around 12 different emotions, from tired to excited, playful, happy, disappointed, I put them out. And at this age, the children are not reading, but they are able to notice the emotions on the illustrations. And it was also really nice for the parents to have a look at the emotions cards themselves and be able to pick those cards. So in that way, they were able to show me if they were feeling nervous or apprehensive or tired in a way that didn't force them to actually tell me how they felt. So that's what we did to start with. As a teacher, I am just facilitating. So I sit in the mat, I'm engaging with the children, but I'm also giving them space just to explore the materials. Then we started when everyone arrived. We were sat in our circle and we started with, is everybody listening, with body percussion. Why I do this is firstly to sing my instructions. Is everybody sitting? Is everybody listening and looking? And then we do the body percussion because it's very settling, grounding, and regulating for this age group. It also helps the parents settle into the class. When you're doing a family yoga class, often they don't know each other. It can be very nerve-wracking for the parent. Some of them have never done yoga before. Some of them really don't know what to expect. Even if you've told them what to expect, they can still feel apprehensive or nervous. In this particular situation, I had 5 parents, only 1 dad, all girls except for 1 boy. So I had a dad and a boy, and then the rest were girls with their mums. The dynamics of the class really do change depending on who you have in there. Everybody in my class is completely welcome. But of course, if you are the only dad and you're coming to a class where it is all mums, that can also feel a little, they might feel a little nervous, a little bit anxious or apprehensive. So I'm just very mindful of that it's not just the children that need regulating at the start, but the parents. And if we are focusing on co-regulation, which at this age we need to be, we need to make sure that the parents are regulated and calm if we want the children to be regulated and calm. So I do that with my body percussion. Then we sang a song using humming bee breath. So again, I am focusing on regulation that is appropriate and fun for this age group. So we sing my humming bee song. Some of you might know this, hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me? And then we do our humming bee breath. So I pretend I've got my little humming bee, my bumblebee here in my hand. We sing the song and each child gets to say their name, which is a really nice way to not only introduce them to the group, but as a way for everybody to validate and value the fact that they are here and say good morning to them. And honestly, they do really love it. It's an important part of the session, and I do it in every class with this age group. Then as we're passing our little bumblebee around, doing our bumblebee breath to everybody. So including me, that means we are getting 11 humming bee breaths. Now that is a lot of regulation in a very fun way. So after that, I then wanted to introduce my glitter jar. So we've already done breathing, we've already settled, grounded, and now I just want to do a few cleansing breaths with them. And this I just did with the children. So the parents didn't shake it, but the children did. So if you're not familiar with my glitter jar, let me just get it. Ah, it's on my shelf. Okay, never mind. It's over there, but my glitter jar is just glitter and water in a glass jar. We shake the glitter jar and then we take a deep breath in and a slow breath out through the mouth. And we wait for all the glitter to settle. So because we have myself demonstrating it and then 5 children, that means we've done 6 breaths with the glitter jar. I could really see the shift in the energy. It was so quiet, grounding, and calm by the time we got all the way around the circle. Honestly, I could really feel it and see it in the children. And even though I've been doing this for like almost 15 years now, I am still so impressed that such a simple breath can help instantly regulate an entire room of children. So that was wonderful. And then we were in a good place to do our yoga storytelling. So I'd planned to do We're Going on a Bear Hunt, which is what we did. The children already knew it, which was wonderful. I have read this probably a million times over my 25-year career, so I do not need the book, but the visuals are great. And what I did is after every action that we did, so I passed the book along, so the book went around the circle and the children had the opportunity to turn the pages and show everybody what was the next part of the book. So again, just bringing that community and connection together again. So we did yoga movements. How I do it is I'm regulating the children throughout the entire story. So again, I do my body percussion, tapping on our thighs, and we are saying the rhythm, we're going on a bear hunt, we're going to catch a big one. Now that is used on every other page throughout the story. So what we do is we do our body tapping together. I sing, we're going on a bear hunt, and the children obviously join in. And then we do whatever activity it is they are doing in the book. So they're going through squelchy, squelchy mud. They're going through swishy, swashy grass. They're swimming in the deep, cold river. These are the parts where we stand up and we do yoga poses with a dynamic movement. So I don't just stand up, I do things prone, on their back, laying down, we do things on our knees. We're moving at all different levels. And then after we have done our movement, we again come back, we're going on a bear hunt, okay? And then we do our next movement. So this is a great book for movement, and it's all focused around nature. They're going on a journey together, this family. And so I love to do individual poses, partner poses, and group poses as we go on this journey. For example, we do swimming through the deep, cold river. So we lie down on our belly in Shavasana and we move our arms and our legs, which is amazing for children's core strength and coordination, especially at this age. Also, those prone positions are great for regulation for early years children. Then we turn over on our backs and we do legs up, not against the wall, but legs up in the air, and they start to move their legs. Also very good for some core strength and coordination, but a little bit more relaxing and grounding. Then we come back together, we do, we're going on a bear hunt, and then we have the next adventure. So if we're going through the swishy, swashy grass, we stand up all together and we do our side stretches, and then we hold hands with our partners and we do our forward folds together. And I'm trying to integrate some cleansing breaths as much as I possibly can with this book. So, for example, when we are going through the swirling, whirling snowstorm, we are doing our breathing. So it's a deep inhale and a long exhale. The children love this one. Also, if we are going through the swishy swashy grass, then we do an inhale, reach our arms up, and an exhale, shh, as we fold forward. So I'm integrating dynamic movement with the poses as well as breathing. Then towards the end of the book, they find the bear, they go through the cave, and then they go all the way through, back through everything again, back through their journey. So they're getting to do all these different poses that we've just done. We're recalling them over again. And then eventually at the end of the book, they get into their bed. And this is where we do relaxation. So I encourage them to lie down and pretend that they're in the bed. And usually they choose to lie on top, especially at this age, they lie on top of their parents. So usually their back, the children's back, is lying on their parents' belly. I turn off the lights, which I tell them I'm going to do. And then I just guide them to do some breathing, some quiet relaxation. Then at the end, we come up and we look at where the bear is and we just have a little discussion about why the bear might look sad at the end. And they come up with some wonderful ideas, from he just wants to be friends with the humans to he's really hungry now because he hasn't eaten the humans, so he's looking for some food. So we'll have a discussion about that, and I really try to educate them about the world in just a small way, about how we can take care of nature, and also about emotions. So I just do this in a very fun, playful discussion that is, of course, supported by the parents. Then after that, we did some partner yoga. So I have my partner yoga cards. I had 5 cards. And today, because I'd met some of these parents before, so last week some of them had done a kids yoga class. The children had done the kids yoga class, but the parents were just observing at that point. They were just, it was in the park, so the parents were just sat around watching, whereas the kids were involved in the yoga class. So today I did some partner yoga that the children were familiar with from last week, but it was quite new to the parents. I had my 5 cards with different partner yoga poses on, and I asked each child to choose a pose, and then they went and did that with their parents. So each child and parent had a different pose. Now, this is not something that I do all of the time. Often I'll do partner yoga where we're all doing it together, all doing the same pose. But sometimes it's nice just to have a little break for that, like for them to have the break from the whole community being together, and it's just them and their child on their mat exploring this pose together. So we did that just for a few moments. Of course, I am here, I'm noticing what everybody is doing, and I'm supporting the children and the parents when they need tips on how to balance in the posture or how they can do it in a way that is accessible to both of them. Then we came back together and I went through 3 of those partner poses and we did it together. I chose the more grounding, calming partner poses. So we stayed seated and we did things like lizard on a rock, where one partner, so the parent, for example, is in child's pose, and then the child is lying on their back as the lazy lizard, and then we swap over. So that was our partner yoga section, and that's starting to slow everything down, calm everything down. After that, we did some feather breathing. Again, this was something they could do as a part with their partner. So they were simply just blowing their feather, big breath in, blowing their feather towards their partner, and they were going back and forth, which I just leave them to experiment with that, explore with it, so they have time together, just them and their partner, so just the child and parent on their mat. And again, I'm just encouraging them and supporting them, giving them ideas on how they can take a deep breath. And then we did some relaxation. So we had the child come in to child's pose, and then the parent put their hand on their back and just gently rocked them. Now, this is very soothing for the nervous system. Some of the parents just naturally also started to pat and rub the child's back as they were in child's pose. As they were doing this, I kept music on that was very soft, and I kept my voice very soft as well. And I just started to talk about how they could take some deep breaths, how they could start to let their body feel very heavy and floppy and soft. So using language that this age group understand. After that, the parents went into child's pose, and I guided the children to give the parents a little massage. We just gently used our fists to go all along the parents' back, and this was very relaxing for the parents. Even just a minute or 2 in that kind of position, a lot of parents don't get time to do that. So this was a great one that they could also use at home, where the parents were able to relax and rest just for a minute or 2, and the children were actively doing something that was regulating the parents as well as themselves. So this is just one of my favorite activities to do with parents to create co-regulation and connection in a quiet and grounding way that they can actually do at home at any point that they need a break or before bedtime. Then after that, we got into our starfish pose. So again, coming back into Shavasana, and some of the children chose to rest their head on their parent's belly. Some of them chose to lie their back on their parent's chest and belly. Again, I turned the lights off, I put some soothing music on, and then I just had my wind chime, which I went around with, so it was very soothing for them to listen to, and I just guided some breathing. By this point, the children were actually really relaxed, and because we'd done so much breathing throughout the entire class, the children were really listening to my guidance, and I was able to see that they were taking those breaths in and doing the exhale through their mouth. I guided them through about 5 breaths, and then we came up together and we just said a simple goodbye, because by this point, everybody was so calm, grounded, relaxed, that I didn't want to do anything else. Now, by that point, we'd already spent about 50 minutes together, 55 minutes, which was my intention for the class. Of course, I could have easily extended that a couple of minutes by having a discussion with them about what they enjoyed the most in the class, or by doing a breathing technique. But after the Shavasana, it just felt so calm and grounding that I decided to close it there with just a simple thank you very much, and offering a thank you to your partner as well. And then that was our session. It was a really great session. I enjoyed it a lot. The group was absolutely wonderful. Everybody fully participated, and the parents were really on board with everything that we were doing, from the breathing to the movement to, of course, the relaxation. Now, throughout the class, I did keep putting in little points where parents would be able to take these techniques and use them at home. So for example, when we were doing the humming bee, after we'd done the humming bee breath at the beginning, I then told the group, if you're at home, if you're in bed and you find it difficult to get to sleep, you can do your humming bee breath, and that will help you with your sleep. So giving those little tips to the parents and the children on when they can actually do these activities at home, not overloading them with information, just one little sentence that is going to help them and encourage them to use this at home. Now, some things that I planned to do that I didn't do. One was that I had all my natural materials that I have over here, a whole tray of different things like shells, pine cones, crystals, and stones. And I had planned to ask each child and each parent to choose something for the other person. So the children would choose a natural object that they would give to the parent, and the parent would choose a natural object that they would give to the child. Then we were going to have a mindful moment where they would observe the object, and then we were going to use that for belly breathing during our Shavasana. Now, I like this idea, and I've done this before. I love bringing nature into the classroom, but it just, whilst I planned it, the flow of the class, it felt like it was going to be disruptive if I had brought them out of the Shavasana to then implement this, the nature basket, because they were already so calm after the child's pose massage and the feather breathing. I then decided to just go straight into a Shavasana that only required them to breathe with my guidance and then listen to the wind chimes. And that really was enough. And I didn't need the natural materials for that. Everything else I did, I believe. Let me check my plan here. Yeah, everything else. I didn't offer scarves to cover their eyes, which I had originally planned to do. But again, I just felt like they came into a Shavasana so easily and so quickly that I just felt like offering additional materials would maybe distract them. And so I left it as it was. I had also planned to do a reflection at the end to ask them what was one thing that they loved doing with their partner today. But again, as I say, it just felt so grounding and so relaxing at the end that I didn't want to then start talking with the whole group. Now, of course, after I said goodbye to them, they then played with some of the things going on here. The children were looking and exploring, which I'm happy to spend some time with them. And the parents were chatting with each other, which is what I absolutely love, because this is community. And so they stayed for an extra 10 minutes or so, and then we said goodbye. So that was our family yoga class. In total, it was about an hour and 10 minutes, which included the children coming in, us waiting for them, the children who were late, and then saying goodbye and having a little chit chat at the end. Our theme was loosely, we're going on a bear hunt, and it went really well. And of course, I hope to see this group of parents and children again. Now, if you've got any questions about this class, about my setup, or anything that I've spoken about, then please do let me know. I love to hear your questions and could go deeper into any aspect. I will say that the class I felt was just really, I managed it and guided it in a way that I would any class. Obviously, having the parents there does really support because they are regulating with the children, so it's very calming for the children. And I just find that family yoga can feel a lot calmer for me as a teacher versus if I have the children at this age by myself. I do love having the kids here by myself. It is very fun and the dynamics are completely different. But having the parents here, it did feel very grounded today. There was a lot of connection between parents, between the children, between the parents and children. So it was absolutely perfect in that way. Some of the children, of course, got excited, especially at the beginning. But what I noticed is that as soon as I started doing the breathing, that dysregulation really did calm down. And then the body percussion, which I use throughout, which is really soothing for the nervous system, also helped with that regulation and making them feel more settled. So let me know if you've got any questions. I would love to hear from you.